Welcome, this is our Spring 2021 garden tour here in the Loire, France. We thought this would be a really good opportunity to just show you around, as we've done a fair bit of gardening in the last 8 months and we have a lot of plans going forward. Currently I'm stood in this front section which is quite a large space, and there's only a small amount of plants at the back there. This area and the garden on the other side of the wall used to be a vegetable garden. We can't really date the photo, but about 50 years ago all these buildings were one farm, and this was used as a fruit and veg garden. So we're hoping that this area still has really good soil, and over time we hope to develop and grow our own potager. We haven't quite decided whether we're going to have raised beds or if we're going to plant directly in a no-dig approach on top of the grass. But let's have a quick look around at what we've done so far over here. So this is a bit messy at the minute, but what we did have here was a bird cage, we think for racing pigeons. It rotted away and we had no use for it, so that's gone, and currently I'm moving a lot of the stones and a lot of the earth and just piling it here ready for when we create when we need to add to a wall or when we need to create the beds. There's also a few water butts, which one is completely broken, the seal, the other one might be recoverable, but again, this is a lovely space here whether you want to add build a cold frame, and there's a frame that goes along these two sides here, which is kind of broken away, which may have had something where they would have kept vegetables in a cold frame, I don't know, but this space here on the other side of the barn is going to be really useful. So this is the chicken hutch, which again is in poor condition. It's rotting away at the base. We've kind of ummed and ahed on whether we should keep it or whether we should restore it, and I think at this point it's probably worth getting rid of, and if we do want chickens, start again, because again this space here could be very useful. This is a south facing garden, so it gets a lot of sun, and we can use this space to kind of propagate and grow different vegetables. Along here we do have some apple trees which are flowering, and last year they produced some apples. So this place had been uninhabited for three years, and this had continued to produce fruit, and they were really good apples. A lot of this timber was pulled out from along this wall where it was falling down, and we're looking forward to seeing what this produces. So this is a grapevine. We're assuming it's edible grapes, but there's a lot needed cutting. It was everywhere, so we're going to start again here and see what happens. So if you've seen our latest vlog so far, click the link if you haven't, but we've been excavating this wall here, which had already been crumbling and falling down. It had been propped up with some kind of wire fencing, and the ivy had gotten so matted in the mortar that it was just pulling it all apart. So this whole section here, from here, we're going to have to put some bigger stones along here to kind of prop it up. It's going to come away all the way to here. Now it's a big space, but actually what it's going to do is it's going to open up the secret garden, which was secret when we arrived, in order so you get a nice view and you get good access to and from. So at the far end of this space we have a lot of the grass cuttings. We also have one of the compost bins which I've moved, and we have an array of roses and other plants that have that need a bit of work, so we haven't quite taken on that bit, and we're going to need to create a composting area. We haven't quite decided where that would be. Okay, so the great thing now is a few weeks ago we couldn't quite pass through here, but now you can just wander through here into what we're calling the secret garden. It's not secret anymore, so we need a new name. If you have a new name, put it in the comments below. My wife Rebecca, she's already talked about our plans in our first video, so again, if you haven't seen that, do check it out. But I'll quickly go over what she talked about. Is we discovered there was a raised bed here because some daffodils popped up, and all of this area on the floor here, all of this was covered in stones and big stones and ivy and ivy and ivy, so much ivy. And again, we're still in the process of clearing that. And over here we have a structure which was, you can see, rotten. Had a lot of tiles on, which again the ivy had crawled through. So we've taken that apart. Underneath was an old swimming pool, bits of rubbish and wire and everything. So we've had to clear all of that out, and we're hoping to, at some point, fingers crossed this year, create another structure with a little bit more headroom that you can cook under and have a outdoor kitchen, and we'll see how that develops this year. So we have a selection of fruit trees here which we believe are green gages, and again these were covered in ivy. They had a lot of stones, big stones around the bottom, so currently we're just kind of moving them away, digging away. We're going to be putting more grass down, and just creating these beds a little bit smaller because they're a bit too big, and currently there's too many to manage at the minute. Currently this spot is quite shaded, but as the sun comes round it gets really warm and it's sheltered with this wall. And again you can see from the photo that there used to be a structure here, so we don't know what it was used for, but that might explain why there were so many stones. And we're hoping to obviously use a bench or put a bench here so we get a nice view, and when this ivy along here is cleared, we may be able to see out, or if we need to raise it, you get a really nice view out of the countryside. So these are beds that we've been working on. Again, these were all overgrown when we first arrived, and we've just been adding daffodils for the spring, and Rebecca in the last video was planting some summer bulbs that should add some colour. And because we're taking over from someone else, we don't really know what there already is, so we're going to use this first year to see what comes up and then add and change and move things around as it goes. So one of the main reasons of coming to France was to have this outdoor space. We used to live in a terraced house with a very small garden. It was a beautiful garden, but as we wanted to grow our family, we wanted to have a bigger space, and moving to France was a huge factor in that decision. So currently this was, many years ago, a space for growing vegetables, and it could be in the future, but as we're going to have 2 young children running about, I think this is a really good space just to let them play, let them kick a ball, play sport, whatever. So we're just going to leave it as is for now, and we'll see how that progresses over time. So this whole bed here was completely overgrown. The buddleia was really leggy, and the bay tree was just so bushy, and recently we've just dug up a lot of the weeds that were in amongst here, and you can see there's a little path that goes through here, so we're constantly discovering what it used to look like. And when we first viewed it, we had no idea of the real space and the layout. We just knew there was a lot of potential to bring it back to a really nice garden.
Okay, so over here we've got this big trough that was being used as a planter, but we thought it'd be really nice to turn it into a pond. It's a bit ugly, it's a work in progress definitely, and we'll do a separate video on how we turn that from ugly trough into lovely nature pond. Now come on through to the gîte garden. So this is the area we're calling the gîte garden, and it's the bit in between the 2 houses. You have our house at the front, and then the house that we're hoping to turn into a gîte at the back. It's a really nice private area and is completely unrecognisable from when we arrived. This was going to be one of our first focuses on what we did, but we've actually put it on hold a bit because potentially the gîte needs a lot of plumbing work, which means the garden's going to have to be dug up, and so we don't want to do planting that then gets ripped out. So it's sort of on pause. Recently, Brooke has been digging up this area here. This is where our septic tank is. When we moved in, the laurel was so massive. It was completely on the ground, so underneath was just ivy and weeds. We've cut that back, which means so much more light gets into our bedroom. It's much nicer. We've cleared this ground. We're gonna sow some wildflowers to attract in the bees and butterflies, hopefully, and then also have to re-sow some grass seed as well. When we moved in, we didn't even know this bed existed. It was completely covered in a Virginia creeper and we thought it was just the wall. When it died off and we cleared it back, we discovered we've actually got another huge flower bed here. Slowly we're clearing it, we're clearing out all the roots, we'll level it off, we'll make the walls look prettier, and then we're hoping to grow some lovely climbers along it, plant some nice flowers and create a lovely little area. When we moved in, this area of the garden was completely overgrown. Along here we had loads and loads of paper mulberries, which Brooke cut down, and we've still got the roots to dig out. These trees as well came right down to the ground, and we decided to cut off some of the branches just to open it up, give ourselves more of a feeling of space. You can see where the grass currently ends, how much more space that has given us. So we're going to clear this all back, put down some grass seed and plant some nice shade-loving plants under there. So Brooke cut down 2 paper mulberries at the back of the garden, and you can see we've still got a lot of the branches that need to be cut up and stored away, ready for firewood. In terms of planting, the main thing we've done in this garden is planting spring bulbs last autumn, and it's been really nice having all the daffodils pop up and give us a lovely bit of colour. So this is another bed that was completely overgrown. The bay tree was just ginormous, so we've trimmed that back a bit and we've cleared the rest of the bed, and we'll be adding plants as we go along. As you can see, we've been doing a bit of excavating to try and find the pipes, so again that's why we're not really planting up this bed at the moment, in case it has to get dug up. Here we've got a patio area. The paving slabs are pretty ugly, so we're going to want to change them at some point, but for now it's a really nice seating area with lots of roses which have had a good prune back, so hopefully this summer we should get lots of lovely flowers. Okay, so this is the entrance to the properties. From the photo you can see that this area used to be a kind of gravelly hardcore, and currently the driveway still is. We're looking to change that so that it doesn't take up as much space, but quite how much work that's going to be we will see. This grassy area here we planted lots of daffodils in, and about a month ago they were looking lovely. The grass in this area is just incredible. It grows so quickly. This year we're going to experiment by just leaving it and letting the insects enjoy it. This is the area at the front of our house, which at the moment is pretty much a blank canvas. When we moved in, there was a ginormous paper mulberry over here. We had no idea what it was and no idea how problematic it was. Over the 3 years that no one had lived here, new paper mulberries had grown up everywhere, and Brooke must have dug up about 50 of them. It self-seeds really easily, the pollen is really strong, and as well as all of that, this main tree had a huge split down the middle, so it was actually really dangerous and could have collapsed on the house at any point. Even though it created some lovely shade, it was bye-bye to all the paper mulberries. Over here we'd like to create a pergola to have a shaded seating area so that we can really bring the outside in and link the garden and the house together. And then over here we're looking to create some flower beds to create a bit of privacy from the road and the driveway. So that's where we're currently at with the garden and what we want to achieve over the next few years. Come back in a couple of months to see how it's looking in the summer.